What? Did I just hear that the full review of a Mercedes B-Class cannot be exciting? We'll prove otherwise. Here on Autogefühl, your number one resource for in-depth car reviews and your number one community to discuss cars. Today with Thomas and the new generation of the B-Class. In exterior, interior, driving experience and a special safety feature with the assistance systems. And everything of that you can enjoy together with us. Full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. No, the B-Class is not the sportiest and not the sexiest Mercedes out there, but with this new generation, I think we can surely say it's sportier and sexier. Especially here in the AMG line with the diamond pin grille, which is my favorite Mercedes grille. Subscribers will know that meanwhile. Sensors are hidden behind the Mercedes logo here. It's 2D but appears a little bit 3D again because you have this real ring around the Mercedes star. Front camera is placed right there. Then the AMG line also features some stronger lower bumper. Headlamps come with halogen as standard, optional LED, and those ones are the top multi-beam LED headlamps. We also have the LED high beam. Here with two stripes for the daytime running light. Two stripes is also with the E-Class. Shall that maybe visually lift up the B-Class? I don't know, but I think the front definitely looks sportier than before. One of the main tasks here of the new generation. The total length is 4 meters 42 or 174 inches. That's a couple of centimeters more than in the previous generation. Not a big change. 3 centimeters gain in the wheelbase, for example. The rims, 16 to 19 inch, those ones are the top 19 inch spec. They're a little bit protected by the tire lip here, that's quite good. But you can also go, of course, for smaller ones if you want to save some money. Suspension-wise, also interesting, there's a base suspension. Then there's a comfort sport suspension. What's that supposed to be? Well, it's 50 millimeters lower, but it has the same comfortable damper rate. So it's just that the car visually sits a little bit lower than. That's the main aspect of it. And then, built in this vehicle here, there's the adaptive suspension with the driving modes that's also then adjusting to the driving modes. Interesting also that the rear axle is different depending on the engine you pick. And if you go for rather high spec or low spec, or also with bigger rims, when you go bigger rims or bigger engine, then there is a more sophisticated rear axle. If you go base engine spec and smaller rims, the rear axle is, let's say, less sophisticated. But Mercedes says it's not that the one is comfortable and the other one is, not comfortable or something. It's more that when you have bigger rims and higher speeds, then, for engineering reasons, they want to have the rear axle a little bit more sophisticated. That's the official statement. But I guess it cannot be wrong to get the better one with a bigger engine then. The design here, you can see it's typical B-Class, more van-alike still, and whereas more and more manufacturers are going for SUVs only, Mercedes is still offering this compact van. And also in the side profile you can see it has become a little bit sleeker. Also the transition to the hood, it looks a little bit less van-ish than before, but still, it could also be a little bit blown up A-Class, which technically it is actually one. In the rear you get those new tail lamps with a daytime running light here as well. With this horizontal stress, the car also again looks a little bit sportier than the previous generation. It is somewhat a difficult task to make a compact van look really stylish, but I think they have accomplished that here. We surely all agree that a pure sports car looks better. But I think as for a compact van, I think that's really, really well done. In the lower part, we got the typical fake exhaust. Almost everyone does that nowadays. From a distance, it looks quite okay. If it's something that annoys you, that's up to you personally. Then in the middle part we have a sports diffuser. This is also part of the AMG line pack. And by the way, the color is iridium silver, but we also have some more other cars filmed for you with other colors. For example, a denim blue. Then there's also a mountain gray metallic, but also a mountain gray magno, the matte variant. Or what about the polar white? And later on there will be more colors available. Welcome to Autogefühl, your #1 resource for in-depth yacht and boating reviews and your #1 community to discuss boats. Well, that's maybe something for April 1st, but I can tell you, there's something they have in common. The big boats and the cars. It's really also about the interior. That's why we're going to dig deeper into the interior of the B-Class now. Here, starting with the key. This is then the same that you get for an E-Class. Of course, there's keyless entry. With putting your hand in the outside to close it or on the inside to open it. Then inside of the door is the AMG line as well with Alcantara inserts, very nicely done. Then this brushed aluminum style, Article leather red on the top part, really great from the build quality. The only thing that is not here, the door buttons are not galvanized, but it's, you know, just a plastic, but I mean, okay. But you can put some stuff at the inside of the doors. And interesting that, you know, they go quite wide inside the door, so no space is wasted. You can see here, for example, the case for the glasses, and here, for example, then on the top part for the emergency vests, for example. And interesting, on the other side there, lower next to the seat, look at that. There's also a spot to put your umbrella. Why not? AMG Line also features those aluminum pedals and AMG floor mats. Well, and then you can also see this microfiber steering wheel with the good grip at the sides. I really would prefer that too. The Distronic is at the steering now, not anymore at the separate column at the steering wheel. And then those seats, those are the sport seats. There are also base seats with fabric available. Those are the sport seats with in the middle Dynamica microfiber and outside Artico or MBTEX leatherette. This is also a very great combination. Stays cool in summer, warm in winter, and you also don't slide on that so much. You go good for sporty driving as well. Also like really the quality grade of that when you feel that, for example, and you could not could not really tell it's real leather or leatherette. And that's good. So more sustainable materials should not only be sustainable, but they should also be as good or even better. And that's the case here. Then the top part of the dashboard is also with soft touch. Then turbine style vents. You can open and close them like this. And then move them freely. Pretty cool system. Well, now let's get inside for real, because that's what this car is about. Such an easy entry into the vehicle. You have a high seating position, a very good overview. Yes, it's somehow like in an SUV. You have to say that nowadays, because you're sitting higher, you're sitting upright. Also, the pelvis is also already quite upright already. You sit, by the way, 9 centimeters higher than in the A-Class for comparison. Also, shoulder room here is 3 centimeters more than in the previous generation B-Class. So it really has grown already in the front here just a little bit. I feel so comfortable here, and this is probably also one of the main reasons I would recommend a B-Class. Yeah, I mean, it's the most expensive compact van, yes, but looking at other Mercedes prices, for example, it's not super expensive if you compare it to like a C-Class, E-Class, whatever. Even the A-Class, you can get an A-Class for 60,000 euros nowadays. But this one here, you already feel it here. you have a very good relation still of the price performance, or the price to the room that is being offered, and to the comfort that you get already here in this car, which is not so super long. This is equipped with a panoramic roof, and I'm 1 meters 86 or 6'1". That still leaves some headroom. If you want more headroom, you would leave out the panoramic roof. Of course, it's a cool option. We will soon take another look at that from the rear, because then you can see the full glory of this sunroof. Interior overview, and I really have to say, it is to me one of the most pleasing interiors at the moment, because on the one hand you have some central elements like this here, this curve, and there's aluminum mesh inset, but you can also get it in a more warmer style, for example with a matte wood. We've shown you that on the motor show episode. You should check that one out as well. On the other hand, you have the digitalization, which looks very clean and modern, and you also have some interesting functions. I'll soon show you that. And also redundant controls. On the right side, you already have the touchscreen. You can, however, also use the central pad on the lower part to navigate. Then you can use your right thumb here for the right screen, and you can use your left thumb for those digital instruments and control everything. So you can keep your hands on the steering wheel while driving. The basic setup would start 7-inch, 7-inch. Then it's 7-inch, 10.25-inch, and the top setup, like here, 10.25, 10.25. Of course, this brings the price of the car up. That's, again, the disadvantage for sure. Then those turbine vents here, they are also illuminated at night. Really cool. The lower area still has a separate climate function with a nice clicking sound. Then this area here with still some manual buttons left. By the way, they promised us this is here a early stage of the vehicle, one of the first ones that were partly hand-built. So they say when it comes from stock now that this one would also be more aligned, 100% perfect from the buttons, like in a row. And in the lower part you have some storage. You can slide it open. For example, smartphone, we're here for the inductive charging pad. Cup holders, then again this touch pad here where you can also write something, for example, address-wise. You have USB-C devices, by the way, one in the very front, and then there are two more right here, and they go all the way for USB-C. Also some storage space inside here. So, and now let's go detail detail of those screens. First of all, the left side, those digital instruments are very clear to read. You can also set different styles if you like. Select it, for example, here in the so-called progressive style. That one, the yellow one, was sport style. I have to go back there again. Here we go. Understated, for example, is also very interesting. That looks pretty fancy. But I would rather go with the more classic style that somehow appeals to me most. And it has a blue background, and you know I just like the blue color. The advantage of those digital instruments are also that you can see the GPS information in the middle part. Then that's, you know, when you have set a route, then you can read that there as well. But also head-up display, soon more details to that. And then if we move over to the big right screen, we can also use the touch, as I said. Let's take a look at the GPS here. Good processor unit. Also really responsive. It always depends a little bit on the web connection as well. You can connect your phone via Bluetooth, but also with Apple CarPlay. That's also possible. If you go to this app, then you would have it right here. Here's no device connected, but I would need the cable connection. If I would have the cable here, then it would be cables all over the place. But that's the place where also the CarPlay. And you can still play your music then and have the car sat-nav at the same time. That's a very important aspect. And, of course, the voice activation. You either activate at the steering wheel or just say, "Hey, Mercedes."
Hey, Mercedes.
How can I help you?
Set temperature to 21 degrees.
Temperature is 21 degrees.
Hey Mercedes,
How can I help you?
drive me to Palma de Mallorca.
I am starting route guidance to Avinguda Jorm II, 3 Palma.
That's really nice. So I really think that temperature and setting the GPS destination is one of the best functions, and this MBUX voice activation system is at the moment probably the best one I know. It's really helpful. I had it a couple of times now where I just said, like, drive me there, and that really worked very well. Also then with live traffic information. And of course, there's this augmented reality situation for the GPS, and we will show you that right at the beginning of the driving part, so look out for that. So on the head-up display, you can see the current speed, the allowed speed, and now since I have set a GPS route, you also see some arrows and descriptions of the route guidance there. Pretty helpful and very, very clear to read. An option, of course. There's really a lot to discover, especially if you have all the options ticked like in this very vehicle. But of course, I can understand that Mercedes does that with the test vehicles, since then we're also able to show you everything you could possibly have. For example, this so-called new seat kinetics, and if you start that, you would maybe expect like a full massage, but no, that's not about it. You feel that there are some minor changes in the seat, and not all the time, just from time to time. And the reason for that is they want to change the seat a little bit so that when you're driving for a longer time, you have little change. And that's also what you're supposed to do in everyday driving life, and also in everyday just seating life, because there's no proper real right position for everyone. And good is when you always move or change a position, then you relieve stress and you can also have a better comfort on the long-term one. Pretty interesting system. I just have to have more experience with that over time if that really works. Will be very interesting. And what's also interesting, there are a couple of things you can imagine still asking the MBUX system. And one interesting thing is, for example, hey Mercedes,
How can I help you?
will it rain today? Always important for us,
It is very unlikely that it will rain in Balearic Islands today, with temperatures between 10 and 20 degrees.
Yes, very unlikely to rain. I think is very good for us and also for you for the review. By the way, there's a separate button for the camera in the lower middle console. I like that because then I can easily access the system. Of course, when you put in the reverse gear, then always the reverse camera is appearing. And then you can switch around if you have this top spec camera, of course, only between different camera angles. Here, for example, is John's tripod. And then you can, for example, see that you don't damage the tripod or those precious alloys. So pretty helpful system. And we will even see more of that system later on when we have our assistant system special. Then we also use this automatic parking function that will be very interesting, I can promise you. The optional panoramic roof has a black shade with fabric cover. Then if you open it, you can see it is basically split. You have one in the rear and one in the front. And the shade automatically opens alongside. Then you can have this semi-opening that's possible, or the full opening then for the front roof. And it's also quite wide actually, so it leaves a lot of light in. Yeah, that's the maximum position. So definitely a cool option if you like some fresh air. Of course, if you're in the very hottest climate, then a fixed roof will always do better to keep out the sunlight. And now getting to the rear, this is of course so important for this vehicle. Isofix here at the outside parts of the seats each for the child seats, and you see the same microfiber inside Artico on the outside setup here for the rear seats. Somehow a single seat setup, you see it also have those sporty accentuations. Really lovely done. So yeah, that's what the B-Class is about, and the increased wheelbase is also playing a good effect. Even if I'm driving as a taller driver, still have enough knee room left. You also have upright seating position here in the rear, and I really have to say, This is probably the most comfortable Mercedes in the rear bench. I mean, even, for example, recently in the GLE, which is way bigger, you fall a little bit backwards on those back seats here. And here you also sit really upright. I'm not kidding. If I could pick between one of the big sedans for being chauffeured or here, maybe like on this seat and then put all the seat here in the front, I think I would go for this one as a chauffeur car because it's more comfortable. It's funny, right? Really interesting. Also, same in the front, also in the rear. As the doors from the inside are really upright, you have more room to move around. So otherwise, the Mercedes design on the interior tends to have like very voluminous inside of the doors, and that costs you room to move around. And here, you feel free, basically, although you're sitting in a car which is not too big. Really interesting key finding, definitely. Then we have some armrest here, cup holders for the kids. You can also just move this middle part as a ski hatch to load things through. We can move the seats, or we have to do it from here, because the rear release is missing. That's the only thing I criticize here. You always have to go around and here. We'll soon check out how it looks like from the trunk. And interesting also, this car is not equipped with it, but you will be able to order a movable rear bench. You can then move it to the front and the back, like this. There will be a release then here, and then you can move front and back 14 centimeters. That's like, I think, like this. This will be handy then to, for example, either have the maximum knee space here or the maximum trunk capacity while maybe like a child seat is installed or so you get some more flexibility. Last but not least, here at the inside part, on the middle part, you also have those air vents, lower part, then 2 more USB-C devices, plus a 230 volt, or maybe different for your market then, but there will be then a real plug, for example. And have I forgotten anything here? Yeah, headroom. Maybe just talk about that. Yes, there was the panoramic roof. Still okay for me as I'm the driver. I also have the seat as I would be driving, by the way, just for info. Still some headroom left. And again, if you want more headroom even, then you could leave out the panoramic roof. So again, this is really fantastic. This is what this car is all about. And I can just stress again, the package they have here is the best from the whole brand setup. And now what about the luggage compartment? There's the electric hatch right here. And first of all, the liter figures, it starts like this, 455 liters. Then if you would have the movable bench and move it forward, 705 liters. And the maximum setup is 1,540 liters. We're going to check that out very soon. Here there's an additional floor mat. You don't have to have it. Just maybe, just an addition. Let's look underneath that. Some sound system equipment and tire. Well, not sure if there's also an option for replacement tire. Maybe. We have to check that. For example, on the right side there's a small net. Maybe you can store a bottle of water there or whatever. On the left side here we have the emergency kit stored. Well, and the only thing that is missing with this vehicle is really something to release the seats from here. That would be quite handy. Otherwise, you always have to go around like this and then flip the seats. I mean, it's easily done. It's also folding pretty much flat. But again, release would have been cool. What about the measurements? Let's take them. So, the length of the normal trunk is here just under 80 centimeters. Of course, that's not super long, but it's also not a super long car. Again, the package is good. But you see the emphasis here on this vehicle is on the legroom in the front and the back seat, and for the passengers, not the biggest emphasis on the trunk like an estate car or something. That's totally fine. Then in width is just over 1 meter. That's very well usable. And in the height, just up to the cover is just under 40 centimeters. And to the very top there is just under 80 centimeters, like 74 or something. Interesting is that later on, or also with a different seat setup, you can also order a co-driver seat. Then this one here will also be able to be flipped completely. It doesn't work then with the electric seats, but you can also get a one when you want to load through very long things like a surfboard or something. Then you can also flip the seat, but you have to order the very right seat for you. Then you have to pay attention at the dealers. So, and let me also put a cabin trolley here inside. You can see it also fits in a vertical way here with the top cover. That's very good. So you can like put like 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 next to each other. Or also like this, you can see the size. So I think a very well usable cargo area, and you can see as all the seats then in the front, in the rear bench, they almost go completely flat. So I think also we have a very good result here. The design tweaks they did to make the car sportier on the exterior did not have a negative effect on the versatility on the interior. And child safety test, Mercedes are known to apply the right amount of torque that it always closes, but it doesn't hurt your arms or head or whatever you get in between it. Is also the case here for the new B-Class? Yeah, that's how it's done. For any other manufacturer that was failing this test, look at that. So about the engines, the B-Class will start with a 1.3-liter petrol engine, 136 or 163 horsepower. Then there will be a 1.5-liter diesel with 116 horsepower. And this one here today is the new 2-liter diesel with 150 or 190 horsepower. Today is a B200D with 150 horsepower. This new 2-liter diesel also is fulfilling all the new regulations as for the emissions. It's one of the lowest emission scoring diesels overall on the market now. And it also comes with a new 8-speed dual clutch transmission. The other engines get still the 7-speed dual clutch transmission. And you might remember, Mercedes does not like me to say that, but all the engines up to 1.5 liter are Renault engines. Yes, they say it's not really Renault engines. They have developed them together and then they did their own stuff with that. But if you want a real own completely Mercedes engine, then you would go more than 1.5 liter of displacement. That's one, is it? And probably a lot of guys, if they buy a Mercedes vehicle, they also want a true German Mercedes engine in it. So that's the info then here for you. Well, and you know, I definitely like more like electric vehicles or petrol engines or something. But in this case here, this new diesel is maybe the most clever choice. We'll see how that plays out with the consumption both and the performance very soon in the driving setup. And now we are starting our assistant systems special. Next to me is now Robin Lacqua. He is a development engineer for assistant systems. Specialty is cameras actually. But what is the first exercise now, what it's about?
We're looking right now into the emergency braking, especially in city scenarios where a lot of pedestrians are, cyclists and so on. And that's very important for us to improve the safety in the traffic scenarios in the city.
And that would be what we are seeing now for every A and B class from standard equipment.
Yes, exactly.
So, then please surprise us.
So we're just driving manually in a city and paying not attention to the road, playing somewhere. Oh! And I get full support. I done really nothing on the pedals. The system recognizes the pedestrian or the child in that case. And first there's a warning, optical warning, then sound. And then when there's no reaction at all, the system gets completely break down the car. And we are still standing because it could be also that the driver is sick or not able to react anymore. So we really try to make the car safe and coming directly down and braking full.
So what have you improved now in this new generation of the B-Class with this system?
We improved, for example, we added the cyclists and that's for the B-Class especially. And of course there are improvements on speeds that we are reacting more on higher speeds.
Okay, so like this system we've just seen, up to how fast can you go actually?
Normally the city maneuvers up to 50 km and also a little bit above, and that's, I think, quite good to have more safety in the cities.
And above, like at higher speeds, then that would be the area of the Distronic system then?
Yep, exactly.
Cool, let's move on to the next one.
Okay. So the next one is about safety or emergency braking on the road. So let me just turn around and then. So now we're driving again in the city, and also paying not really attention to the road.
You talked
to me, so. Yeah, exactly. Oh! So there was a warning first, again optic. Then we heard the sound signals, and then there was the braking. So it done really the same thing, nothing on the pedals, and we got a smooth braking till there's enough distance to the front vehicle, and then we're rolling again because there could be else traffic behind us, and we don't want to disturb them. So we ensure also the safety for that.
And this again would have been a standard feature for all A and B class, and of course bigger vehicles.
Exactly, yeah.
But that the belts were actually like a little bit stronger. They were really stiffened. Is this an optional feature, or is this part of the standard deal?
That's also part. It's called pre-safe, so we're caring about that stuff also.
Oh, cool. And there are always the discussions about standing objects versus moving objects.
Yep.
And the different sensors and system. What's the critical point there? Because I sometimes heard that not all systems actually recognize standing objects. How is it at Mercedes?
We recognize them also in our systems. There are certain limits, of course. It's very hard because we are not knowing or have to recognize the environment completely. And still standing there are some information sometimes missing. So it's very hard to be very accurate that we're knowing this object is very still standing. It's very hard for that.
But the system that runs up to 50 kilometers an hour, that is basically reacting on moving both and standing objects.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, cool. Anything else for us?
Yeah, we have a third scenario. That's more about the comfort features with a Distronic. So let me just turn around and I show you that also.
And the Distronic is, of course, then an optional feature?
Yeah, the Distronic is an optional feature. There are two packages available, so the solo system, only the Distronic, and also the full package, so that you have also more opportunity like lane change options on the Autobahn and motorways. Okay. So same scenario, only the vehicle is right now standing, but we are activating the Distronic.
Yeah, that was what I was talking about, because some of the ACC systems, they sometimes fail when it's just standing.
Yeah, exactly. So I accelerating, I do nothing on the pedals right now, driving in the city, and there comes a junction or traffic light, and there's already a car standing, and you see it's recognized in the display, and we're getting smooth breakdown to that.
Yeah,
and of course the car will start again with a start-stop automation due to certain scenarios, and with the car goes on, we will also start again.
Yeah, I mean, I had some other test vehicles where actually this situation, the car did not realize the car in front of us was a different brand. What's the difference? Why can this car actually, why is it able to do that? Does it have something to do with a combination of different sensors or something?
Yeah, we're using the radar sensors and of course camera systems and merging both information together. And that's a good starting point for having more autonomous function and getting the more comfort to the driver.
So let's say I would not have the Distronic now in this vehicle. If I would go with the standard A or B class, what would have happened then?
Then we would have the other scenario that we get the emergency braking. So warning first, optical, then the warning by sound, and then the emergency braking if there's no interaction by the driver.
So we would still be safe, but it would not have been like a smooth maneuver, but again the very hard braking.
Exactly, that's more no comfort feature, so that's really the emergency case.
Awesome. Very interesting. Thank you so much. I think that was a good user case, and hopefully you will not experience situations like those. But if you do, at least you know there's some safety net now. I think one of the most important developments here for the newer cars. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have something more for you, because now we're joined by Volker Klink. He's also a driving assistance engineer at Mercedes, but now it's about those... So I just said Mercedes and now the MBUX was activated. That's interesting. Show me some driving assistance systems. Well, it's credited to German at the moment. Well, usually the MBUX would now answer us. Volker Klink will show us that.
Yes.
And it's about parking.
Not
only? What can you show us?
I will show you some more features of the systems, safety and comfort features, which are more relevant in the city areas, urban areas, and part of it is parking. But we'll show you something first before we park. So you might be familiar with a system called blind spot monitoring. We had this before, but we extended this feature and this system so it is available in typical low speed scenarios, typical city speed scenarios. So if you look at the mirror now, we have our bicycle over there, and it's an extension to the known system. So it's available from 10 kilometers on. So if someone is coming close to us, such as a bike, we'll get the red warning, the LED first, and if we then use the turn indicator, we get the additional flashing and the sound, so we're aware that somebody is there and that we shouldn't be turning in that moment.
So before the system was working for cars only, and now it's also working for bicycles?
It was for cars only, but active at a certain speed. So now we reduced our speed to 10 kilometers, that even if we're in the city at low speeds, it's available for you. So we can protect also not us, but also others. It was active before that at starting at 30.
Okay. And since you most of the time not have cyclists above 30, that it wasn't relevant.
Exactly.
I can drive faster, honestly.
Yeah, but I think most people in the city with bikes are not that fast. So.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So, yes, and now imagine you had your family in the car, children in the back, and you nearly had a crash with a car in front of you. You nearly hit a bike. I think we are all a little shaky now and shocked. We really need to calm down. So let's find a place where you can have a hot chocolate for the kids and some coffee for us. So our coffee shop is over there, and here are some parking spots. So let's see. I just pick this little button and we get 2 parking spots are available. We want to pick this one right now, and we're going to park forward because we still have our kiddie stroller in the back that we need to get out of the trunk. So what I do is just select my gear, and the system does the rest. So it uses the indicator, uses the, of course, the steering, braking and accelerating, and it also shifts gears. And here in this display, you can see where the car wants to go, and with the green lines, and then also the little red lines tells you where it wants to stop. So even if you're not quite sure, is it going to stop there or not, you will know here.
So would it also work with the manual transmission?
This system needs the automatic transmission.
But most of the engines nowadays have the automatic transmissions anyway, so.
Yes, I think the ratio of people who buy this car with manual is very low, but for details you have to refer to our product manager.
Ah, okay, sure.
So we had a little correction here because it wants to park in the middle, so everyone connects it. So this little correction, and now we are in our parking position. The car goes into park mode, and we are now able to shut down the engine and have our coffee. So now we just had our coffee, we are all relaxed now, and we want to unpark. So back, I just pressing the button here, and I can now select the direction where I want to go. Maybe I want to go that way. Select it, put in the gear, the system tells me what to do, and I let go. And you can also switch the view here. Wait, there was another bike over there, and we had a crossing bike over there, but he reduced the speed and warned us that there was a bike while we were playing around here.
So it obviously worked. The cyclist is still alive.
The cyclist is still alive. If he would have been closer, we would have stopped the car completely. So here, and when we are done, it tells me now it's your turn, and I can seamlessly go and continue driving.
Yeah, but because I was just thinking, while we're doing the parking maneuvers, what if something approaches from the rear now, and
Exactly. So that is the additional rear cross traffic alert that we introduced. It uses the sensors from the rear sensors to detect oncoming obstacles or objects. So, and it can bring the car to a complete stop if someone's crossing behind us, close, that we might hit. So that's a new function. But I just noticed we forgot the kids in the coffee shop. We have to go back to the parking spot.
Oh, the kids.
Yeah, the
yes.
kids. We gotta get them.
But I really have to say, like, your colleague who's doing the cycling here, he really has to have a lot of trust in the systems.
Yeah, but why not? It's working.
You say so. Well, we've seen it once, maybe twice.
You want
Let's
to see it again?
Yeah.
Again, we need to go pick up the kids. So now our old parking spot was taken, so we take this one now. Again, I'll just put in the gear. And there we go.
So that's the parallel parking now.
That's now the parallel parking.
Nice. So is there a certain limit, like a length limit, where the system says that's too narrow?
Let me get back to that. I just need to get the kids. I'll stop the engine and... Oh, wait. There was another bike coming. There was the demonstration of the exit warn alert, where we also used the rear sensors to detect passing obstacles, even if the engine is off. So I turned off the engine, but the system is still available for 3 minutes. So if then somebody comes, bike or car or whatever, I get the red light again as a warning. And if I then open the door, I get the additional flashing lights, the acoustical warning, and also inside here the ambient light will also flash to avoid this typical situation where I hit someone when I open the door.
Is the door then also heavier to move or something?
No, we don't want to lock anyone in here, so you can still open the door if you want to, you get the warning. But it works for all 4 doors.
Okay, we've seen a similar one with the Audi A8, for example. There they also have it that's like the door is a little bit slowed down, basically, to prevent the doors from being opened. But I think that's already like a very good addition here.
Thank you. So, and again, we got our kids back in the car. So, same thing. I just press the button, unpark, and there we go. You might see that we have a really nice display here. It's bright. We can switch the surround view, everything. It's a really nice display also. Works also great in the dark. And now we can go again.
So you wanted to get back to the maximum length of the parking spot?
Yes. You need roughly a meter longer than the car.
Okay, yeah, so the car is 4 meters 42, so we would need 4 meters 50 something.
About
Sorry, 5 meters 50, of course, yeah.
1 meter plus, yes.
And that's a little bit more, right?
Yeah, we picked the parking spots where it's kind of like a realistic parking spots. So it's not too big, not too small, so for the demonstration. But it could go smaller. We also had it yesterday that it was a little closer. So it was, if you were a little bigger, you would have problems to get out of the car. But
okay. Very interesting. And of course, I want to know from you guys, would you actually use such a system? Or do you say, I know, parking, I can do it my own? Or are you actually glad that some of those stuff is now available?
I really like all of the systems. The parking there's some situations where you just want to let it be done by the car. Sometimes you want to do it, I don't know, if you want to do it faster. I think we showed especially the backwards parallel parking is quite quick. I think I'm not much quicker than that. I'm a big fan of it, especially if you're going to try the driving with the systems. That is really comfortable. I personally like it a lot.
I will test it out later at home as well. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the new B-Class. And we'll start right away also with this new infotainment system where we have this augmented reality with the front view camera. And together there's the arrow showing me where to go. And also there are just for directions, or also maybe with a street name if there's a street name. And there's another arrow then where to go exactly. So now, for example, I know I have to go left and not carry on to the right way. And this is a really helpful system. We had it also in the GLE, but also here in the compact segment vehicles, B-Class and the A-Class. We're driving the diesel here today, the B200 on purpose. As I said earlier, this is the Mercedes engine you can really buy. And since you have this displacement, you can also stay with the lower horsepower output. So I always tend to say nowadays, when so many vehicles and engines are downsized, try to get the one with big displacement but with a low horsepower figure, because when it's tuned to a low horsepower figure, it doesn't have to work that much from the displacement it has. It's also good for the long-term reliability. I'm also very happy with the head-up display I'm seeing here. A lot of different information I have there. You can also adjust the amount of information you get. But the most important is that you see the current speed and the possible allowed speed. Very interesting with the suspensions here with the B-Class. We are driving the adaptive suspension, and also, since this is the adaptive suspension, big rims and also the bigger engine. This one here is combined also with this more complex rear axle support. And indeed, 19-inch rims. If you thought about 10 years ago for B-Class 19-inch rims, wow! Today it's almost common. But it's really surprising how good the ride and how comfort the ride still is, although we have 19-inch rims. So I usually say go for the smaller ones, and I say it here as well. But just for the comfort ride, it is possible to stick with those 19-inch rims. Also here in this driving part today with the B-Class, we start with the motorway run on purpose. The more spectacular agile driving part will follow very soon. But I just thought we always make it according to the vehicle, and this car here is primarily used in the city and also on the motorway in a rather calm way. And this is let's see the difference there to the old one. This car is here not this super dynamic cornering car, but will it still offer that now in the new generation? Will this be the difference? We will find out very soon. But first of all, here on the motorway we set the Distronic Plus, keeping the distance to the car in front of me. I don't have to do anything with the pedals. Of course, you always should stay awake and aware for that. But it's really really working very well, and smooth transitions. Now the blind spot monitor, if you look to the left here, the red triangle in the side mirror, so that's a very helpful system. The front assist then comes standard, so that's to go, you know, whoa, that was close. Better don't talk when you're following a destination route. So the front assist, the autonomous emergency brake, that comes, or it's like active braking assist called here, that is coming as standard. Everything else you have to go for optional, but those assistance systems, they're really helpful. You should at least pick the blind spot monitor. It can really save you some accidents and stuff. Also the steering is very smooth, very natural it feels. I'm really looking forward how it will be in the more dynamic environment, but you see there's no real dead zone. It's not super progressive as we're used to from Mercedes, but it gives you a very cozy feeling. Also again with the Alcantara, or Dynamica is the company here, the microfiber grip, really good, also according to the microfiber seats. We have this upright seating position. It's not a seat where I would say, oh, we lift the back part a little bit to have a more upright pelvis. Here you don't have to, because the seating area is rather flat, and it's more like sitting on a chair in your living room or at the dining table, and you could really very well imagine driving further and further and further. Comparing it to the predecessor, you can feel and hear that you hear less, so the noise insulation has been improved. As you if you are a regular, do I have to go straight or in the tunnel now? I think I have to go down the tunnel. Yeah, that was, you know, I would have needed some augmented reality help maybe in that case, but here it didn't really came. I'll get on there, next station. Why not do some city traffic here now? So those, if you're a regular Autogefühl viewer, you know that when we do some test rides on Mallorca, cars tend to be a little bit louder, because a lot of the times the tarmac here is okay, it's very well built, but it's a little bit rough from the material as for the noise insulation. And so sometimes when I drive cars in, I think, oh, it's not so silent. But here, although the tarmac is a little bit rough here, it is super silent in the car. So that's definitely something there where they've stepped up the game. Also very characteristically for the B-Class, it gives you this very unique driving feeling, because the doors from the inside here are so upright. You have a lot of room for your knees. Also here is everything wide open. Also when you look to the front, you know, here again, because it's just straight. It's not like voluminous into the cabin. Also to the front here I have a lot of room, and that gives you some relief. You're very relaxed. You can very well use it as a travel vehicle, and even if you're, you know, stuck in traffic here now a little bit, you remain calm. Everything is easy, and you could very well imagine going a long way for the travel, also with the family. Although it's not a super big car, so if you're going in rather narrow city surrounding here, then you don't have, oh, I maybe have a comfortable car, but now I don't know where I should go, or where's the next parking spot. So this is basically combining both. Consumption-wise, by the way, this is also a reason you might want to go for the diesel here. Now a little acceleration. Also again, very smooth and silent. So it's really giving you a very calm driving feeling, and somewhat, of course, it was the case in the predecessor, but this one has been improved. Here again, when I set the turning indicator, by the way, so the blind spot monitor is active and I set the turning indicator, then I also get the acoustic warning. See here? And also this red triangle is flashing. Definitely a very helpful system. So what about the driving modes? Since we have the adaptive suspension, so we can go from comfort to the sport mode, for example, that turns up the RPMs. So I get a more more spontaneous throttle input, the gears are turned up higher, and exactly the opposite would be the eco mode. Then it's more about fuel economy, the throttle input is being reduced. So when I put the throttle through, not so much reaction from the engine, it's more about rolling, coasting function, keeping the RPMs low. And suspension-wise, when we're here now in the comfort suspension setup, it doesn't feel too soft. So it is very comfortable, but I would even say it's somewhat sporty from a suspension setup. So even if you're in the comfort mode here, you're doing some lane change or something, it feels amazingly agile. That's very interesting, and again, we'll find out more about that very soon. And as for the engine performance, let me go to the sport mode now. First of all, now the suspension is a little bit stiffer, and just some small sprint. If you go like 100 to 120, that's it. Okay, I was starting to get a little downhill now here, but even then the engine is remaining very, very silent. And the car somehow does feel quick, so that's one surprising point for sure. Here also when I'm in the corner now at a little bit higher speed at 120 kilometers, still a very stable and safe feeling the car is giving me. And we know the B-Class very well. We've driven it here on the very same island on Mallorca in 2014 with the then facelift of the car, and also Cornelius from our team, he does own a B-Class of the previous generation, so we have good possibility to compare everything. And this one here feels so much more refined now, more sophisticated, so to say. Not a completely different car, it still gives you this somewhat classic B-Class feeling, but comfort and sportiness has been improved, on both sides. And again, I can just prove again, it's a really good Autobahn vehicle, even though you can still drive it in sport mode with the adaptive suspension, and you'll also be just fine. Now the question is, if you're with the 19-inch rims and the adaptive suspension and the bigger diesel, it gets pretty expensive, but you will also be able just to go with a little cheaper versions. And talk to the Mercedes guys, and they said that the different rear axle is actually not, it's not that it's super much difference like in comfortable and uncomfortable or something. So if you go for the easier base standard rear axle, you will also have smaller rims and therefore have more dampening over the tires, and that should basically even it out. So I think that could also be a possibility when you go for a base engine, want to keep it a little bit cheaper, and then you have smaller rims, and they should probably do the job to give you some more comfort. And again, I guess this will also be just fine, because we also want to give some advice. Those test vehicles are always super high spec, and we also want to keep it, real, because a lot of guys will probably say, I don't have too much money now for buying a B-Class. I want to keep it real. I think that's also very important. I think so far everything in the B-Class has shown us pretty cool. Just a short follow-up to the first driving part. Now I've driven some more, and they did not hesitate with the throttle, but I also didn't push it. 6 liters and 100 kilometers or 39 mpg. This is really a realistic figure. Lower, of course, earlier if you really try. And here 6, really realistic. Cool. But now it's about the ambient light, first of all. Really cool, to my favorite color. And let's put it in the dynamic mode. Let's forget for a second about the fuel consumption. Let's see how agile they've made the B-Class. Because here on those Majorcan hillside roads, I've also been testing the previous generation of the B-Class, and I exactly remember how it feels. And I did remember it was a nice drive, was already a good car, but it was not so much fun on those corners here. And now it actually is. So driving dynamic wise, it rather feels like an A-Class. And I mean, this is here a B200 diesel. Yes, it has the adaptive suspension, so that brings, of course, good driving dynamics and comfort in the combination. And also with the big rims, 19-inch, but this is not a super sporty version. And so far there's no AMG B-Class on the horizon, although I'm pretty sure there would be people buying that. But still, it already feels very sporty, so sportier than I would have expected, indeed. And see here, again, a little bit more progressiveness from the steering wheel would be cool to me, but it is very precise. Now this S corner, and it is a lot of fun. So far you could say the B-Class, yes, it's the intelligent, the clever choice for a lot of room and versatility and stuff, comfortable ride, but then again, you did not really have a sporty, fun driving experience, but now you have. So this is probably the biggest change here in the driving. And again, amazed that I have it with the B200D. Also glad to show you this awesome surrounding. I always love it up in the north of Majorca. One of the most beautiful landscapes with this semi-dry Mediterranean landscape. And look at that, I'm really amazed how much fun it is. It's really cool. Also, the suspension has the exact right tuning. So you see there's hardly any tilting to the side, but if there are some potholes in the road, you know, I do feel them somehow, but they don't get through to the lower body. So quite often you have to make some compromise. You either go in the sporty direction or in the comfortable one. But here with the B-Class, they really managed, you know, to have both. And I mean, we get a front-wheel driven car here. So, and it doesn't feel boring like if you say like, oh, drive a B-Class up a mountain, front-wheel drive, compact van. It's like, oh, how boring is that? But no, it's not boring. It's really a lot of fun. And there's not a big feeling of being pushed outside or of some understeering. So this new platform they created for the new A-Class, of course A and B-Class share a lot of components. Stiffer chassis, definitely, and both A and B-Class profit from this technology for sure. I remember I've been driving this road also with the Mini Countryman, John Cooper Works. That was also a lot of fun. And again, you know, there's no one behind us, no one in the front. Look at that. We're doing some slalom now. A very natural and precise steering feel. I think we were on this parking lot doing the statics with the JCW. Look also how the B-Class is not tilting to the side, although again, it's not a sports suspension we have here. However, we are in the sports mode. Let's see if that is any different in normal comfort mode, if they have like less fun or more tilting or something. So, yeah, I think the steering is a little bit lighter then. The car leans in the corner a little bit more. Jonas, what would you say? Difference in the driving modes? Now comfort mode?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit, because like the co-driver is experiencing more G-force. I can always hold on to the steering wheel here and I know exactly what I'm doing. At least I hope so. But for the co-driver now, so I'll switch back to the sport mode. See again how the difference is. My next corner. So I think the difference is not worlds between those driving modes, but definitely the sport mode gives a little bit more feedback from the road. There's a little bit less tilting, but even already in the comfort mode, it's still somewhat sporty and fun to drive the vehicle. So really surprised. And again, it was already a good vehicle, and they improved this, the small elements step by step with the new generation. But in this case, we always do new generations and facelift of the cars and stuff. But I think in this case here, they've really taken a big leap from the previous generation to this one here in a lot of different elements, and driving-wise, it's definitely that they have massively stepped up the sportiness and the driving fun. Look at that. Welcome to the B-Class AMG review with Thomas. Have now this 300 horsepower turbo diesel. No, it's not. But, well, it feels like it. Now to the conclusion with the all-new Mercedes B-Class. I want to do a small experiment with you. Close your eyes, please, and just imagine your friend is telling you, hey, I'm now driving a Mercedes B-Class in silver. Then you would actually think now, hey, are you my granddad already, or what's going on? And now open your eyes and look at that again in this iridium silver, of course, very nicely polished and stuff, and then with the 19-inch black AMG rims in the AMG line, and with this new design setup, I think you can really say that this is not only just granddad's car anymore. You can also drive it, with a young family and still have an attractive vehicle as a compact van. Yes, of course, it will not win a sporty design prize like a Mercedes SL or something, but considering the vehicle segment, I think this is, very well done. However, they did not compromise on the room on the interior. You have even more space than before. Yes, it's also a little bit longer, of course. But you have such a cozy and roomish feeling on the inside, especially because the doors are not that voluminous on the inside. You have this upright seating position. So considering the size, considering the length of the vehicle, and then what you get on the inside, this is the best from the whole Mercedes model lineup. Driving was also pretty surprising. It's sportier than the previous generation. It's more silent and more comfortable at the same time. Of course, you do expect that from a new generation, but is indeed also the case. With a new diesel engine, I can also recommend you that. Pretty low consumption. I mean, you can, if you really want to, of course, score some 5 liters on 1 kilometer. That would be like 47 mpg. If you have some more speedy driving, that would probably be like 6 liters and then more towards 40 mpg. But you can reach that. And I think that also speaks for, in this case, that for a lot of user cases, diesel does still make sense. I think it depends on the engine mix of what you are doing with the vehicles and also how many kilometers you are running. Well, and overall, it's not my emotional favorite with Mercedes. That would probably be still the SL, or maybe like if you think about vintage cars, a W123 or something. But from all the factual side, I can just say, yeah, I mean, there's one thing missing, like the release from the back seats or something, but leaving aside that, this is probably the best Mercedes ever built on the factual side, when you take everything into account. That's what I say to this car. What do you say? Yeah, there's one thing still. It's really, really expensive. Not comparing to other Mercedes, but overall. If you think, for example, about the Golf sports van, we have the same segment, but maybe 10,000 euros less in the price. But then again, for example, a BMW Active Tourer 2 Series is also at the same price. So in the premium segment, they are not really exceeding the prices super much. They're always a couple of thousand euros more expensive than most of the, BMW models, for example. But yeah, you have to pay attention that you don't get too high in the price. Otherwise, the dream of a premium compact van is gone. So that's the only thing you have to pay attention here with the new Mercedes B-Class. Everything else, you are actually being taken care of by the car. So now looking forward to your comments, to our review. Also, if you liked our special assistance systems part here today. We really enjoyed it. It was really great that you joined us here today with Thomas and Jonas behind the camera. See you next time. But if you're not only interested in the B-Class, but also in the A-Class, check out our Mercedes A-Class video we've already published. Great landscape there in Croatia, and well, a lot of interesting things we experienced there with the all-new generation of the A-Class. Look forward to that.